Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. I'm Rishabh Gulati, and for the past several weeks, we've been doing a special series on second wave superheroes. We try to recognize individuals and organizations who've done a lot of selfless service. And honestly, most of us couldn't have gotten past it without all these kind of individuals. We're recognizing them just as a note of thanks and appreciation and hopefully encouragement. Hopefully this was the last, but who knows. For today, our guests joining us, we have Hiyavi and Vibhu, Pooja Marwa and Ajay Malik. They have fascinating stories to tell. My colleagues, listen in.
As the second wave of COVID-19 hit India, individuals like Hiyavi Sehgal and Vibhu Sharma stepped up to help people amid an acute shortage of oxygen, beds, medicine and home equipment. From verifying all the information on social media to providing assistance with resources, the duo were on duty 24/7 in order to be able to share information and assist those in need. NewsX proudly recognizes Vibhu Sharma and Hiyavi Sehgal.
Hello and welcome to our special show, Second Wave Superheroes. I'm Priyanka Sharma and joining me today on the broadcast are Hiyavi Sehgal and Vibhu Sharma. Hiyavi and Vibhu, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Hi.
Ms. Hiyavi, for you, the second wave of COVID-19 had hit home. Tell us about the experience and how did that experience change you?
When I had started doing all of this, my maternal side of my family, both my grandparents were super critical. Nobody was prepared. I was out there looking for hospitals. There were no hospital beds, and it did take me about 2 to 3 days to get them the care that they needed. And it changed me in a way that I knew what people were going through because I saw what it was like out there. And I wanted to help people. As soon as I realized what I can do, I just started verifying information. My number got circulated. People started calling me for medicines, beds, oxygen. It did change me in a way where I did learn patience as well, because it takes a huge toll on you as well, because you're going through so much at home and you're going through, and you know the world and India is going through so much and you want to help people. And to put myself first at some point, like to say, okay, today I need to take 5 minutes, only then I can help 10 more people. So it taught me patience and a lot of empathy for sure.
Mr. Vibhu, tell us about the relief efforts undertaken by you, Hiyavi, and your entire team during the second COVID second wave. And could you also elaborate on the task force efforts towards helping the rural community?
Well, task force. So it's fairly started with the same way for, like, the way it started for Hiyavi. It may have not started the same way for me. It started with friends getting into trouble at home, finding things for their loved ones, to which I just started helping a friend or two, and then the other one asked the first one where you got this assistance from, and then so on. This just the word spread, and next thing you know, you were actually so deep in it that you were spending 12 to 16 hours a day just sitting and verifying information about, be it for hospital beds, be it for oxygen, be it for oxygen filling stations, to anything and everything. It was just a part of the whole thing. So we never really looked at it as an organization or a team, but yeah, with the network just established, you know, if I didn't need something, I would go to Hiyavi and she would give it to me. If she would need something, I may be able to assist her. And similar fashion, it just kept on growing, kept on growing.
Okay. So
also, how it grew was that there was so much help needed that we needed volunteers.
Right.
It wasn't a one-person job. The first 2 days when I was doing it alone, there was no sleeping or eating. And even then, you couldn't help all the people that needed help. And that's when I reached out to people that I do need volunteers.
Right.
And I segregated them in different departments, that you do beds and you do oxygen refilling and you do oxygen cans or whatever, you know, and that's how it helped. So if someone came up to me, I could quickly say, okay, yes, this is verified, you can take this. And that helped a lot, I think. Just having so many people come together, it was an entire network of people.
On that note, how can someone join in as a volunteer?
You can easily Instagram us, you can
Yeah.
email us, and we reply back because we do need people.
Right.
We never say no if we think it's genuine, and I also try to see if the person is emotionally available for it because it can
Yep.
take an emotional toll. You need to be very strong headed to do this. It is not for the weak, especially in the beginning. Now that we're raising funds for rural India, it's easier, but in the beginning, it really wasn't
Right.
for somebody who was going through something or could be triggered.
Absolutely. Also, my last question to both of you would be when you're addressing SOS calls and you're spending about 4 to 16 hours on phone addressing these needs, addressing these requests, how do you maintain your sanity and how do you take care of your well being? How did you do it?
My head was just flat blank. It was after listening to stories one after another after another. It really does take a toll in your head, but you cannot let that bother you, because if you let that bother you and you take your, I mean, if that's personal opinion, if you take that time off, you're actually wasting that time or in using that time and helping so many others that you can. So it was just kept yourself, keep going, and yeah, just didn't stop.
I think for me, it was to keep my grief in check because I had lost my father. The first 3, 4 days, I didn't. And then I quickly realized that I do need to take my time. I do need to put my phone off and sleep. I need to take my 20 minutes to eat a proper meal. And that's the only way I could help other people because sometimes it would get so overwhelming. Somebody would call me, and for 2 seconds, I would be blank. I'd be like, what did they just say? And those just taking my tea break, taking my lunch break, and just breathing, just breathing or meditating or talking to a friend, whatever helps you. That's what kept me sane. And I realized very quickly that it needs to be done because it started showing in my, like, on my face that I'm not okay and that I need to be taken care of as well.
Absolutely. And it's people like you, it's the collective effort that I think saved India, saved the community. Well, it's a huge thank you from our team, from the country. And thank you so much for joining us on the show and, sharing your journey with us.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Child Rights and You organization helped thousands of vulnerable children during the pandemic. CRY partnered with grassroots level NGOs and rolled out various interventions under relief and emergency response. With its focused intervention across 19 states, they have extended help to over 2,000 households, reached out to Anganwadi workers, adolescent girls, and poor children. NewsX proudly recognizes second wave superhero, CRY organization, and Pooja Marwa.
Very good evening and welcome. You're watching NewsX special series Second Wave Superheroes, where we bring you stories of people and organizations who lend a helping hand at a time when India was reeling under a devastating pandemic, as India still continues to reel under a devastating pandemic, in fact. Joining us today is Pooja Marwa, CEO of CRY organization. Welcome to the show, ma'am, and thank you for joining us today.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I hope you're good too. Let's straight dive into the conversation, ma'am. So, help us understand the role of CRY and what has been CRY, what has been CRY doing or helping people out during the time of pandemic.
So we're basically, as you know, a child rights organization. And one of the, I think that one of the sets of people most affected by the pandemic are children in a very invisible way, not in that they are getting COVID or getting sick, but that they have not been able to go to schools. They do not get access to the kind of food and nutrition that they need. And because of really not being in school and not being able to learn, I think they faced a lot of issues in terms of child labor and child marriage. So we've done a set of things. One is, of course, that we needed to do food aid. So after 20 years, CRY actually looked at ration. We have a reach out to 18 states, 18 to 19 states. So we were able to reach migrants both in the cities that they were, last year leaving from, as well as in the villages where they reached back. And this year, that is, of course, more of an issue, is that most people are in villages, but livelihoods are an issue. So we need to look at rations and food aid again. We need to, we have also looked at, last year we also did a lot of work on COVID awareness and COVID habits and education support, so that those children who couldn't access online education, you can imagine, most of our children don't have that, got that support, as well as ensured that the children were still being immunized, that their malnutrition was still being tracked, etc. This year, we have added on looking at augmenting facilities for PHCs, so looked at a lot of PPE material for frontline warriors, and a lot of our NGOs partners who are sitting at the front line, looking at equipping them with this year oxygen, etc., etc.
Right, ma'am. Also, because CRY basically focuses on child rights, I have to ask this question because, during the second wave of pandemic, a lot of children whose parents were affected of COVID, a lot of, we call them COVID orphans now. And there has been a lot of hue and cry about where will these children go. The legal procedure, the advocacy matter, and as well as the well-being of these kids is also very crucial, but also raises a question of what exactly is happening right now, because we are skeptical of the system when it comes to children. How do you think CRY is helping children out in that particular sense?
Okay, so there are a couple of impacts on children. Like I said, the real impact that we are worried about is children falling into labor, as well as being married, and as you said, the possibility of them being trafficked, or as if in case they lose their parents or they lose their livelihoods, what happens to them. So of course we have a role within the Constitution of India, which is we need to ensure that we work with about 3.5 to 4 lakh children and their families. So in those families particularly, we track every child. So once we know that there is a vulnerability, that there may be an ill parent or whatever, to make sure that the child is given care during the time of illness, and if in case the child is orphaned, the process is followed in terms of protecting the child, helping the authorities, ensuring the child lines are informed, helping the child welfare committees to find appropriate caregivers. Because the first step should be to find extended family who may be willing to take on the children, and then only put them into the adoption system. And of course, thereafter, help to find suitable parents. So I would actually urge most people to not, jump into it, but actually look at a strategy by which you can help NGOs like us ensure that these children are safe and that they are in safe hands. Let us not assume that every adoptive family is necessarily safe. So our strategy right now is to focus on 2 or 3 things. We have to ensure that children get access to education, because I cannot describe to you what a huge loss the closing of schools is for very vulnerable and poor children. Because for them, school is also a place they are protected, right? And they're getting bored and they're sitting at home. So we are seeing a spike in child labor and in child marriage. So our second strategy is to ensure that that's worked on. We are also right now trying to equip both parents and all caregivers. So our own field coordinators, the Anganwadi workers, etc., on mental health. Because children are very disturbed. their entire natural life has been disturbed. Their parents are so scared, they don't let them play. It's just a whole set of things that is bad for their development. So I think right now the focus of organizations like us, focusing on children, has to be on creating well-being for children and ensuring that they catch up with studies so they're able to go back to school.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and I wish you all the best. And your organization is doing a commendable job. Thank you so much for helping children out there. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
And thank you, Param, for helping by covering our efforts. It's really valuable to us. Thank you.
Ajay Malik helped several by organizing blood drive camps and attending n number of SOS appeals. He helped organize blood camps in his society at Faridabad and also encouraged others to donate by creating awareness for the same. The mobile blood collective van helped those in need to get blood amid acute shortage. NewsX proudly recognizes second wave superhero Ajay Lal Malik and his team.
Welcome to NewsX. My name is Rakshanda Afrin and you're watching our brand new show, Second Wave Superheroes. Today, Mr. Ajay Malik has joined us on this broadcast. The second wave of COVID-19 pandemic saw communities stand together strong against all odds. One such individual was Mr. Ajay Malik, who is an entrepreneur by profession, but has helped organize camps in his society, arrange beds and oxygen concentrators, attended n numbers of SOS appeals and helped people, particularly during the second wave of the pandemic. Welcome to the show, Mr. Ajay.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and how exactly did you help people?
I am basically I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm we're trying to produce something for the Indian Railways. Helping people has always been my passion, and I think since 1989 I was in grade 12 then, and I've been donating blood, and regularly, like every 3 months, 4 months, I made it up to donate blood. Even when I was traveling, when I would, sometimes I would recall that it's like 4 months since I last donated. I just went to a hospital, I donated it. And then gradually it became it was a routine for me. And then after all these years, when this pandemic, started, so I got infected last year in September 2020. So as I recovered, somebody told me that they needed a plasma. My group was O positive. And they were trying to actually, cross match for some patient, and they wanted plasma. So I donated the plasma, and it was an old patient. There, he got saved. And then after another 15 days, I again donated it. So gradually I donated it 5 times. And my thought was that till the time I have antibodies, I should be doing it. And then I've been motivating people, other people also, to, come forward. At this moment, the government has, the medical fraternity, they have actually decided that the convalescent plasma therapy is probably no more needed now. So that is where it has ended at this moment. But certainly when it was needed, then I was always motivating people, because only the recovered could donate. And that is what I used to do.
Right, Ajay. Can you tell us about the challenges faced by you, both personally and also in terms of logistics, while organizing camps in your society?
See, I am a Rotarian, and the Rotary organization. So we have I stay in Faridabad in Haryana, and we have about I think 20 odd clubs in Faridabad, different Rotary clubs. And Rotary International and the other different clubs all over the world, they are the biggest contributors for blood units. So we as a KRA for each club, we are organizing camps around the year. But what has happened in this current pandemic is that we were not actually able to organize the camps as we used to. Like initially it was a very routine thing. So each month we had a camp somewhere or the other. But when pandemic happened, when people were not, like they were afraid to come out to donate, and the factories were shut down, because we used to have it in different factories also, where workers would come and donate blood, and that blood is then transferred to the blood banks. Rotary has its own blood banks, and then we have civil other medical authorities like the civil hospitals in every city. So they get equal share of the blood which is collected. So when the pandemic started, there was hardly any collection happening, and the biggest problem comes when thalassaemic children who need regular transfusions, and they are not able to get any blood units. And then pregnant women, and during the deliveries, when it happens, sometimes they need blood and it's not available. So that is what actually motivated me. And in last year, when the pandemic started in April, I organized a camp in my own community where I stay. So we are, I think, 150 odd houses there, but we could collect about 50 units. And this year in 30th, on the 30th of May, we again had a camp, and we collected 42 units. And it was quite the people were happy. We kept them motivated from initial sending messages on the WhatsApp group to the whole community, motivating them, telling them why it is the need of the hour, why they should come forward to donate. And and then people were happy, and then there was a sense of euphoria. I could see people were so euphoric coming for the camp, and they were all and then probably few of them were even happy that they had the chance to go out to a pub, park in the community, when there was it was very festive atmosphere we could create. And that is how it happened, and we collected 42 units. So that was a good good thing.
Yeah, so I want to know any particular incident which moved you emotionally during this COVID-19 pandemic, and what was the feeling like attending numerous numbers of SOS appeals, figuring out how to help out? And further, lastly, can you tell us what are your expectations from the authorities now?
See, at this moment, I think the wave has ebbed. If I talk about the pandemic, so the cases have declined. I think, as we all know, in like it peaked in September and May. May and June. April and May. And that is when the biggest death cases happened, and the biggest, like, it was all over India. So now, as I understand from what I read from the newspapers, so they expect there's a third wave coming. So I think we should be ready for the third wave, and we have to be very strong. All of us have to be vaccinated, because that is what I have understood. My mom got she got the infection. And by God's grace, she had both the vaccines. The infection happened after, I think, 10 days of the second dose. And then, she's 72 years old. She was, quite good in terms of, oxygen saturation, because that is what I was seeing when, we were attending so many SOS calls in my community and otherwise also. And I could see, the biggest challenge was the saturation levels. And my mom was she had 95, 96 always. So she had fever, and we gave her, some medication, but she got treated at home only. And that is what that is the power of vaccination. So each individual has to be vaccinated. That is what my appeal to everyone who's watching this show is. And then we have to be, the government has to be probably, be prepared, like we see in the last wave and the current wave, oxygen and the beds, they were not probably adequate when it suddenly came. So it was a small pipe, and you put in 1,000 liters of water into that pipe. So it will, of course, that was the challenge. So all of us have to be prepared. That is what I believe the government has to be prepared, and they have to foresee what is coming their way.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ajay, for joining us and sharing your experiences. Thank you for your service to the country.
Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.